Streaming live, this is NewsNation Now.
And a good finally Friday morning to you. Thanks so much for joining us here on NewsNation Now. I'm Aaron Nolan, joined by Marnie Hughes. Marnie will be on all night long tonight, Marnie, as we continue to navigate what is an unknown landscape of the 2020 presidential election.
That's right, TGIF. We made it to Friday, but it's still election day.
Well, and we're here on our Facebook page as well as newsnationnow.com. We'd love for you guys to interact with us. Any questions that you may have about the presidential election on Facebook. Right now, the breaking news that we know of, Marnie, we've been looking at Pennsylvania. We've had these votes come in. We've affectionately called them here in our newsroom vote dumps. That's what they're doing. They're dumping a large amount of votes on us, and we're seeing numbers continuing to change.
Right. So I think let's start, Aaron, with the state of Pennsylvania, because those have been changing, and I will say we do expect another dump of numbers at 11:30. But as it stands right now, Joe Biden is in the lead this morning in the state of Pennsylvania by 8,783 votes. That is 98% of the precincts and counties reporting. Right now, because the number is fluctuating so much, and when you talk about outstanding ballots, it does keep changing, but the number right now just shy of 9,000 votes, and of course we have seen that lead for Joe Biden increase over the course of the morning. President Trump was in the lead in the state of Pennsylvania when many of us went to bed last night, and so we continue to watch the numbers update. I think Philadelphia is a spot that we're closely watching, Bucks County in Philadelphia, where we're seeing a lot of the ballots, mail-in ballots, be counted. At last count, I had Joe Biden up by 428,439 votes in just Philadelphia. So that's, I think, where you're seeing the difference in the count coming in.
As you look at Philadelphia County right now, 95.5% reporting Joe Biden leading by 63 points in that county. So you have 4.5 percentage points of that county still to come in. As you take a look at this map, though, it's interesting what you see here. And again, as we continue to focus on Pennsylvania, Marnie, this was a state this morning when you and I, probably rolled over for the first time and looked at our phone going, oh, okay, now changes have happened because Joe Biden did assume the lead in that state, which President Trump was leading for the previous 48 hours.
Right, and for all of you at home who are following this closely, I mean, Pennsylvania is one of the 4 states that we're watching closely, including Georgia, North Carolina, Arizona, and Nevada. But really, if you look at Pennsylvania's 20 electoral votes, if Joe Biden gets within a margin here where there is no recount necessary, if he wins the state of Pennsylvania, essentially with the Associated Press also having called the state of Arizona for Joe Biden, that gets him to that magic number of 270, which is why we're focusing on Pennsylvania. Not to say that what's happening in Georgia doesn't continue to be interesting, because that state, we have seen President Trump's lead not only diminish, but we now see that Joe Biden is ahead in the state of Georgia as well. At last count, I have Joe Biden up by 1,098 votes, and we're seeing a lot of those mail-in votes be counted from Fulton County area, Gwinnett County. These are counties around the city of Atlanta that do tend to lean Democrat, and so we have seen those numbers in Georgia change as well. Aaron, let's jump quickly to Arizona. That is another state that we're watching.
Well, and Arizona is interesting. We use the Associated Press, and full disclosure, the Associated Press called this state a while ago. But Marnie, as we continue to dissect these numbers, the president here is actually dipping into the lead that Joe Biden built, which led to the Associated Press calling the race in that state for Mr. Biden.
Right. So we have watched that lead diminish for Joe Biden. He is now up by 43,779 votes in Arizona. You have to remember, this is a state that has leaned and voted Republican for quite a while. President Trump won Arizona in 2016 by 3.5%. And this is the home state of the late Senator and former presidential nominee John McCain, a Republican-led legislature in the state of Arizona. They have a Republican governor. Ballots there are being counted very slowly, though. Maricopa County is the most populated county in the state of Arizona, and that is where we're seeing the remaining ballots come in. But this process, we aren't getting quite as many updates as we're seeing out of Philadelphia or Pennsylvania at this point, not even Georgia. It's a slow count. They're opening the ballots by hand. They have to be signature verified. There were protesters outside of the elections offices last night waiting for updates in Arizona. But Aaron, again, as you said, Joe Biden's lead in the state of Arizona has shrunk over the last 24 hours, and it is a state that the president felt should not have been called for Joe Biden. However, the Associated Press has stood by its call of Arizona to Joe Biden, saying that we do not make projections. However, the AP has said we are monitoring the ballot counting that continues in the state of Arizona.
All right, so real quickly, we are on Facebook right now. We'd love for you guys to interact with us on Facebook as well as NewsNationNow.com. Pam Campbell has asked a question, and I think it's an interesting one, Marnie, as we continue to talk about how razor close a lot of these states really are. I mean, if you move across the map, Nevada's close, Arizona's close, Georgia's close, Pennsylvania's close, North Carolina is even close, and those are the four major states we're watching. Alaska is also still out, 50% reporting President Trump has a sizable lead there. But it's recounts. It's the issue of recounts is what Pam was talking about. And let's talk about that for a minute. Moments ago, and what we're doing today very quickly is we are here listening to any different media release that's out there, and then we're going to bring it to you, whether it's on WGN America or it's here on NewsNationNow.com. And moments ago, the Georgia Secretary of State came out and said they're going to recount. That recount is going to happen, and that automatic recount is not there, but because it's equal to or less than 0.5 percentage points, Marnie, a recount's happening in Georgia.
That's right. And recounts are a necessary part of the process, right? I mean, when you have close races, that's what you want to see. However, I will say the caveat to that is the result of recounts likely doesn't change when you look back at when races have been recounted, but it is an important step in the process, and a request for a recount in the state of Georgia in particular must be made within 2 days of results being certified. So we have really thin margins in the state of Georgia when you're talking about 1,000 votes separating Joe Biden from President Trump when we still have some votes coming in. And interestingly, a lot of the votes that we still have outstanding in the state of Georgia are our military ballots that are coming in from overseas. And we saw those ballots play a role in the 2000 election, Bush v. Gore. Of course, those ballots, those votes tend to lean more Republican. So that is yet to be seen if it comes down to some of these military ballots in a state like Georgia that could decide that ultimately. But again, just to your point, Aaron, under Georgia law, a candidate has the right to request a recount when the difference between the two is less than 0.5% of all votes cast. That request must be made within 2 days of the results being certified. So Georgia, interesting. And one other point I'll make on Georgia is that the president came out yesterday and said we were winning in key states, Georgia one of them, but he said his lead started to whittle away in states run by Democrats. That is not the fact or the fact of the matter in the state of Georgia. You have a Republican governor in the state of Georgia. You have a Republican-led state House and Senate in Georgia, and also a Republican Secretary of State, Brad Raffensperger. So you definitely have a contradictory environment when you look at the political landscape of a state like Georgia, and it really doesn't bolster the president's argument, at least not in that state, Aaron.
I want to bring up President Trump's campaign did release a statement earlier this morning. Of course, social media is one of the favorite communication devices for the president and his campaign. He brought up Georgia in this statement. I'm going to read part of it right now. Quote, "The election is not over. The false projection of Joe Biden as the winner is based on results in 4 states that are far from final. Georgia is headed for a recount where we are confident we will find ballots improperly harvested and where President Trump will ultimately prevail." I'm going to stop there for a moment. And Marnie, as we continue to talk about Georgia, it seems the president knows, just like what the Secretary of State has mentioned, a recount is imminent.
Right, and he's calling for a recount in the state of Wisconsin, which also was called for Joe Biden a couple of days ago. And when you talk about recounts, I mean, you look at these margins, Aaron, in Pennsylvania as they stand right now, with Joe Biden up by 8,783 votes, I mean, you're still pretty tight in a state like Pennsylvania. And when it comes to recounts in that state, they can be triggered in each county if requested by 3 voters. Trump was ahead at one point by 109,000 votes in the state of Pennsylvania. A recount can also happen in that state when the margin is 0.5% or less, and that would need to be ordered by 5 p.m. on November 12th and completed by November 24th. So I think you have to remember that the process is so different in so many states. And so as we're all trying to digest this, and you've got 4 states ultimately that are coming into play here with such a thin margin between the votes and so many ballots still outstanding, it's a deep dive into the politics of each state, into the electoral process of each state. And I will mention also, Aaron, that 3.1 million mail-in ballots just in the state of Pennsylvania alone, and we've seen the lawsuits and legal challenges. And the Trump campaign has said they were concerned all along that the votes and the ballots in the state of Pennsylvania, if postmarked by Election Day, could still be counted 3 days after. The Democrats got a judge's order in that state to allow that extension. However, it was not approved by the state legislature. So legal experts say the president has a case in the state of Pennsylvania if it were to come down to that. And that is where we could see, if Pennsylvania is the state that we're watching, this is where it could go to the Supreme Court. And you've heard the president say this on a number of occasions. And so I think that is critical if at the end of the day, today potentially, Pennsylvania is the state that is the deciding factor, where it goes from there.
Well, if you look at your screen right now, Marnie, and we're talking about Pennsylvania, 20 electoral votes. Right now, we are projecting that Joe Biden has 264. Do a quick math there. To get to 270, Pennsylvania does it. Pennsylvania allows Joe Biden to win the presidency of the United States. So that's why Pennsylvania is so important. Georgia has less electoral votes. So that state right now is not as crucial as far as getting to 270 for Joe Biden. Really quickly, I want to talk, Lori sent something in to us on Facebook. Lori, thank you for watching. Lori said, let's recount them all. I don't think we're going to get a recount of all 50 states. I don't think some of those states needed. Lori said she is willing to wait. And that is something that I think a lot of people who are watching at home, and really all of us, this process of waiting it's taxing on all of us. And there's jokes on social media right now from journalists and my friends saying, when is this going to be over? I'm so tired. But the reality is this is a process that needs to happen. This is a process that, has been built for hundreds of years, and we are just going to have to wait this out. And there will be a president come January 20th when it is time to move in and out of the White House if that's necessary, or the president will continue and have 4 more years in office. It's going to happen. It's just patience, as they say, as the Bible says, is a virtue.
It certainly is. And I think, Aaron, to that point, we had our national political correspondent, Dean Reynolds, on last night, and just adding some perspective. I mean, he's covered news and politics all around the world. And to take a moment and just step back, and although it may be frustrating that we don't have results, here we are, Friday of election week, but there are people who do not live in a democratic society and do not have the opportunity to vote and be part of an election. And those who are voting in different parts of the world, it's a landslide. And so to see in our country right now, it is so close and every vote does matter, and that the process is laborious, it should be. That's what we should expect, is that we take the time to make sure that it's accurate. We do have to be patient with it. I think we have to take it with a grain of salt and understand that in 2020, we are less patient than we have been. But we've had,
what? The fault of that is probably these things.
It is these things. But Aaron, I mean, we've been here before. You look at other close presidential races in history, elections in history, and I'm going to have to go to my notes here, but 1948, Harry Truman beat Thomas Dewey by less than 1% of the popular vote. That race was so close that the newspapers mistakenly claimed Dewey the winner. There's a famous picture of Harry Truman holding up a newspaper that says Thomas Dewey is the winner and is your new president. And of course that ended up to be inaccurate. 1960, Kennedy defeated Nixon. 10 states were won by less than 2 of the vote. And then who can forget 2000,
Yep.
George W. Bush beat Al Gore by a margin of 537 votes in Florida. That result came down to the state of Florida,
Yep.
Florida, right? Well, this year we're saying Pennsylvania, Georgia, Nevada. So we've been here before, and I think we just have to understand that this is part of the process, and we're all a little bit tired, but it's worth it in the end,
Yeah.
right?
Well, you know what's funny is we talked about patience right here. In the time that we've started talking right now, Marnie, changes have already happened in Pennsylvania. Joe Biden's lead has increased to 9,752. So we are continue to see votes coming in and coming in. And Sydney is doing a great job punching this show for us. Sydney, thank you. Can we go back, though, to the bigger map? And we talk about Pennsylvania. And yes, it is important for Joe Biden, but it's vital, Marnie, for President Trump. If President Trump does not win Pennsylvania, the race is over. Joe Biden still has a path to the presidency, even if he doesn't win Pennsylvania.
Right.
If he wins Nevada, if he wins Georgia, those two, there's another path there. So the path for the president really is about Pennsylvania right now.
It is, and that's where we're seeing the numbers change, I think, the most frequently. I think Pennsylvania and the Secretary of State's office there understands the importance of that state right now, and also the deadline that they're up against to count some of these mail-in ballots by 5 p.m. today, a deadline that they had set. So all eyes are on Pennsylvania, but I don't think we can lose sight of the fact that if Joe Biden were to win Nevada, for example, that could change things as well. Pennsylvania is just a little more sticky, the process, I think, because it is so close and because of the legal challenges in the state of Pennsylvania. I think the Biden campaign has to be looking at a state like Nevada and going, well, if we win Nevada, it's over and we don't have quite the mountain to climb with some of the legal challenges. Georgia's going to go to a recount. We're too close in the state of Georgia with a little more than 1,000 votes separating Joe Biden and President Trump. So, Aaron, to your point, yes, Pennsylvania is critical. I think that's where we do anticipate some shift and some change today and possibly a result in the state of Pennsylvania. But Nevada, I think we can anticipate some numbers coming out of there as well. And at this point, Joe Biden is ahead by 22,076 votes in the state of Nevada. Under state law, ballots postmarked by Election Day in Nevada can still be counted if they arrive by Tuesday, November 10th. And this is the state that President Trump lost narrowly in 2016. It has trended more towards the Democrats in the last decade or so. Clark County is the area of Nevada that we're watching.
Yeah.
Of course, that's where Las Vegas is.
As we look at this map, again, we're using the Associated Press, which has already called Arizona for Joe Biden. So at 264, I believe Nevada has 6 electoral votes. Therefore, you're at 270, and Joe Biden would be the president-elect of the United States of America. So a lot of things happening. We're going to continue to monitor this, Marnie. We have a press conference coming up in Philadelphia at 11:30. So we're going to continue to monitor that. And of course, Marnie, you guys on WGN America get started at 7 o'clock tonight.
7 o'clock, unless something happens.
Good point. That's why you and I are here.
That's why we're here. So, and I think this is just a great space to be able to talk to all of you at home and continue the conversation. But if we do get a final result in one of these states, we will break in, and of course we'll carry that here online as well. It's going to be an interesting day. I do have a feel. I had the same feeling yesterday, Aaron, that we would hear something.
I'll let you finish it. I got a question for you.
As I take a sip of coffee.
Well, you know, I had a prediction, and I was talking to Jen, our news director, our boss here. I said, Jen, this is what I think is going to happen. And I was wrong. And I have been wrong every day this week. But to your point, it seems like right now, with the amount of votes that we are getting in from Pennsylvania, from Philadelphia, from those counties, something could happen. And again, we're not days away right now to knowing the initial call of this race. We could be minutes, maybe hours away.
Right, and I in that same conversation earlier, I said, I don't think you want to be Pennsylvania or Georgia or Nevada and go into the weekend and nobody knows. I mean, I think it's Friday, we're 3 days after Election Day, and the country wants results, these states want results, these poll workers and elections officials want to have results as well, but we want the process to be accurate. And so when you combine the two, it does have some frustrating challenges, but that's the process, and so here we are.
Absolutely.
We wait. But we do have some numbers today, and I agree with you, Aaron. I think that we will have more clarity.
That's what we're looking for right now, clarity. Marnie,
Fingers
thank
crossed.
you. Sydney, thank you for punching this thing and doing a fantastic job there. We're going to continue to monitor all the numbers here on newsnationnow.com. I encourage you to download our app and follow us on social media. We'd love for you to interact with us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and of course, tune in tonight, 7 o'clock Central on WGN America. Marnie and Joe Donlin will be there navigating through what is this race to the finish line of the 2020 presidential election. Have a fantastic afternoon. We will update you as we get more information.